Here's a question for you. Would you ever move your family into a half-demolished house and expect it to feel like home? Of course not, right? You'd finish the repairs first, you'd make sure it was safe, you'd make sure it was structurally sound and actually livable before bringing your kids in the front door. Well, the same is true for your gut. We spent the last two episodes talking about feeding the good bacteria and clearing out the bad, the parasites, the toxins, all the stuff that was tearing your gut apart. But now it's time for the rebuilding phase. Welcome to the Discover Health podcast, where we explore the power of gut health, nutrition, and lifestyle to help you feel your best every day. I'm Dr. Josh Sharp, your guide on this journey to better digestion, more energy, and overall well-being. Each week, we'll dive into expert insights, practical tips, and real-life strategies to help you discover health. Ready to start discovering? Let's hit the trail. Welcome back to another episode of Discover Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Joshua Sharp, and today we are in part 3 of this gut health series. Today, this is where we actually put the house back together so it's strong, it's peaceful, it's ready for life to happen on the inside. And if you're a mom listening to this, whether you're managing your own health challenges or you're trying to help your kids thrive, this episode is especially for you because let's be honest, you cannot pour from an empty cup and you can't build a healthy family if the foundation is crumbling. If you've been following along with this gut health series, then you know that we've been using a house renovation analogy to walk through this process. In part 1, we looked at the house and we decided what to keep. The healthy parts, the microbiome, the things that are worth keeping, the things that are worth saving, just like you would if you bought a house. Let's look and find the things that we like, the things that are worth saving, the things that we don't want to tear apart and destroy. That was like walking through and saying, okay, these are the hardwood floors. They're beautiful. Let's just refinish them. These windows are great. They let in great light. Let's keep those. We're feeding the good bacteria, the things that we like that are already living in our body that are doing a great job. We're trying to accentuate the things that are already working. And then in part 2, we had to do some serious demo. We removed drywall. We removed moldy bits in the house. We're clearing out toxins. We're evicting bad tenants, the roaches, the mice, the parasites, and the other infections that were destroying the place from the inside out. That was our detox phase. And I know that's hard work. It's messy. It's uncomfortable, but you can't skip it if you want real healing. So today in part 3, we're finally at the rebuilding stage. This is where we're rewiring the electrical system. We're putting up new drywall. We're installing cabinets and new fixtures, and we're making everything else safe and livable again. And at the end, we're going to add the finishing touch. We're going to add in a security system to keep the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. Think of this as moving from survival mode into actually thriving. And moms, I know what it feels like constantly putting out fires. I see my wife do it all the time. She just goes from one fire to another fire, just trying to keep everyone fed, just trying to keep everyone somewhat functional. But imagine what it would feel like to have the energy and clarity, not just to survive, but actually enjoy your days with your family. So here's where most people, and honestly, where I see a lot of moms get stuck. We're going to talk about the blueprint. They buy all the supplements, all the good things, right? The things that are shown to work, the things that have research behind them, the things that lots of practitioners use. They buy the supplements. They buy L-glutamine. They buy probiotics. They buy collagen. They buy digestive enzymes, zinc, all the things. They're spending money, taking the pills faithfully, but nothing seems to stick. The symptoms just keep coming back. And here's why. They actually never change the environment of the house. The roof is still leaking. The wiring is still sparking. The remodel isn't going to last when you're just covering it up. You're just painting over damage. It's not going to last. Your lifestyle is actually the blueprint that determines whether your gut repair actually holds. And so for moms, this often looks like chronic stress. They've got a huge mental load trying to manage everyone's schedules, Mine in my schedule is too, is managed by my wife for sure. She's my walking, talking calendar, which I love her. Thank you, Ginger, for being my calendar. I love you. The interrupted sleep, there's years of waking up with the kids, waking up with, all the different things that kids wake up with, bad dreams and the like, eating, standing up at the kitchen counter because they're too busy serving everyone else. I remember my grandmother doing that growing up. Maybe you're rushing through meals or eating your kids' leftovers instead of actually just sitting down to nourish yourself properly. And all of those things are like storms that just keep coming over this house. They're just battering the roof every single day, little bit by little bit, and years of that damage, just a little bit at a time, it tends to pile up and it tends to create bigger and bigger problems the longer it goes on. But when we start to support your nervous system, when we start to calm the inflammation and retrain your digestion, then we can finally create the peaceful home where healing can actually happen. So I want to talk about a new framework, and I'm going to call it the S.E.A.L framework, S-E.A.L, for rebuilding, seal up framework for rebuilding. So let me give you a simple framework, and it's almost like a construction checklist, a to-do list, if you will. And there are 4 pillars that are going to turn a fragile gut into a fortified home. And again, I call it the S.E.A.L framework: soothe, eat, activate, and live. So let's talk about the S first. That is soothe the system. And what I mean by that is every house needs peace. In the neighborhood, you need peace, calm, quiet. There needs to be, a functioning, stable house that can support itself before you can actually move in, right? And so peace comes from your nervous system, actually, and specifically something called your vagus nerve. And this is the main communication highway between your brain and your gut. The vagus nerve is a huge, huge nerve, and vagus is a term that actually means wanderer. If you could do a dissection, you could see that this nerve is huge. It wanders all over the body and goes to all your different organs, and it makes up a major component of the parasympathetic nervous system. And we have a podcast episode about that called Who's in Charge, where we talk about the balance between the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. When your fight or flight system activates over and over and over from chronic stress, doesn't have to be life or death stress, it just has to be stress. Your body will eventually perceive that as potential life or death stress and activate the same responses over and over and over. And unfortunately, over time, that dramatically increases inflammation, especially in the gut, and it weakens your gut barrier. And so if you're under chronic stress and you don't deal with that, you don't do anything to turn off the stress response and turn on the rest and digest response, unfortunately, you're really going to be limited in the repair and regeneration of your gut. Ultimately, your nervous system has to feel safe. Your body has to feel safe. So whenever you're stuck in fight or flight mode, which, let's be real, if you're a mom, you probably live there most days, your repair crews, the crews that are going to come in and do the remodeling in your gut, they actually cannot work because the place is on lockdown. Your body literally just shuts down digestion and it shuts down healing when it thinks that you're in danger. Those become non-essential. Instead, the focus is keeping you alive. So we have to practice slowing down, especially before meals. So here's some helpful ways to actually slow down. One way is simply taking 3 deep breaths before you eat. Slowly breathe in through your nose, hold your breath for a few seconds, and then slowly exhale through your nose. The slow exhale is a sign to your nervous system that you're okay, that you're safe, and it helps to activate the vagus nerve. So just a few long, deep breaths through the nose can actually really help to activate that rest and digest system before you eat. The second step is pray. Say a prayer of gratitude over your food. Feeling grateful, feeling thankful is a feeling of safety. It's a feeling of joy. It's a feeling of comfort. and it actually helps to activate that vagus nerve and prime your digestion. And then you could try something called Lectio Divina. In essentially, that is just slow, reflective scripture reading. It helps quiet your mind, and it actually signals safety to your body. So you can try reading slowly to yourself. I've started reading my Bible out loud. I do that because it helps me pay better attention to what I'm reading. I'm hearing myself say the words as I'm actually reading the words, moving my eyes back and forth. And just simply doing that has really helped. It's opened new things to my mind in terms of what I'm reading. It it's almost like I'm listening to a lecture from myself. It's like I'm hearing it from someone else as I'm reading, and so it's really been beneficial to simply read out loud. And just an added component would be to do it slowly. Maybe read a few verses and then reflect. Maybe pray a little bit. Maybe read a few more verses. Doesn't have to be a long process. It can actually just be a few verses. But this process of reading aloud, the eye movement actually helps stimulate that vagus nerve and sets your body up for better digestion and better gut health. Another one is humming or singing, and moms often naturally do this with their kids, but humming, that vibration, it happens close to where the vagus nerve exits the brainstem and comes down the neck. This is where the nerve is at its biggest before it has all the branches. And so it's a great way to stimulate that vagus nerve. The vibrations of the humming and the singing activate that vagus nerve and can actually significantly reduce inflammation in the digestive tract. Another one is simply just walking barefoot outside. This could be for as little as 10 minutes, 20 minutes. It's grounding literally and figuratively. And when you put your bare feet on the ground, you receive beneficial electrons from the earth. The earth has an endless supply of electrons, and they are a natural calmative. They help bring rest and peace and calm to your nervous system and can really set you up for better digestion and better gut health. Try stacking these habits, doing several of them at one time. While you've got your feet on the ground, you might be reading your Bible. That's one of the things I like to do in the morning is get sunlight, read my Bible, and also I like to use a vagus nerve stimulating device all at the same time. That way I'm stacking up habits and kind of making the most out of my time. I feel like I'm getting a lot more out of the 10, 15, 20 minutes that I'm outside as compared to trying to do all these things at different points through the day, especially if you're a mom, you've got people trying to interrupt you at all times. So I know these might sound too simple to make a difference, but believe me, your body is designed to heal itself when it feels safe. And these small practices send signals loud and clear to your nervous system that it's safe to repair, it's safe to go into the mode of rest and digest. So that's the S. The second component is E, and that is eat to rebuild. So now it's time to bring in quality building materials. It could be supplements, but I'm going to talk briefly about some foods that could actually be really helpful for you in terms of repairing your gut. So you wouldn't rebuild a house with just cheap old plywood that's been sitting out in the elements. You wouldn't use old rusty nails. So the same goes for your body. Choose foods that are actually nourishing and that are shown to seal up or tighten those junctions in your gut and heal your gut lining. So one of those great foods would be bone broth. Bone broth contains collagen. It contains amino acids that can help repair tissue. I always like to recommend looking for an organic and especially grass-fed, if you're getting a beef broth, but grass-fed beef broth, because those are going to have higher quality ingredients. The animals that were used in the production of that bone broth are going to be healthier, and so they're going to have more of the nutrients that your body's going to need to repair. And bone broth is really rich in those nutrients and phytonutrients to help repair your gut. Eat zinc-rich foods. These would include things like grass-fed beef and pumpkin seeds. Eat brightly colored vegetables packed with antioxidants that help fight inflammation. Eat plenty of healthy fats. And I'm thinking of things like avocados, things like extra virgin olive oil, trying to make sure that it comes from California and it's not coming from overseas. There can be some counterfeit olive oils out there. So you got to be a little bit careful. If it was grown in the United States, then we know that it's been FDA inspected and what's on the label is actually what's in the bottle. Overseas, sometimes it can slip by, and so you can get some counterfeits out there. Wild caught fish are rich in healthy fats. And these fats are great because every single cell membrane in your body needs those fats to function and repair, and especially your gut lining. And one of the things that you really have to focus on in terms of diet, in terms of what you eat, is avoiding the construction hazards, those elements that can be damaging and can break things down. So, the tools that you use to put the house back together to do finished carpentry are not sledgehammers. They're not jackhammers. Um, they're a little bit different. You're not using a sawzall. Those are made to destroy, to tear things down. You're using a little bit different process here. You're trying to protect the elements that you're putting back. You want it to look nice. And so the same is true when you're repairing your gut. So foods like gluten actually are shown to increase inflammation, and they're actually shown to weaken the tight junctions in your gut. That was one of the major factors in deciding to go gluten free, even though I don't show signs of being allergic or necessarily show any antibodies to gluten. Just trying to make the choice to protect my gut has been a worthwhile pursuit, and honestly, it's been a lot easier than I thought it would be to go gluten free. Seed oils. It's not necessarily the seeds themselves that are horrible, but these oils can go rancid and they can be hyper-inflammatory, increasing the inflammation levels in your gut, weakening that gut lining. Alcohol can also be linked to leaky gut and increasing that intestinal permeability, which is exactly what we don't want. Ultra processed foods, they often will have high fructose corn syrups. They're often going to have some of those oils in them that I just talked about. And so those type of foods are shown to be destructive and potentially damaging to your gut. So those are going to be things that you want to avoid. Now, I know that's hard, especially when you're tired. And some of those foods I just talked about are convenience foods. They almost feel like survival tools, but they're actively working against your healing. And honestly, they're making your life more difficult in the long run. They're going to keep you more inflamed. They're going to keep you more tired, and they're going to keep you more stressed out. And the same is true for your kids. The same is true for your whole family. And so if everybody's eating those foods, it's actually adding to the overall stress. It's adding to the sickness. It's adding to so many different things that really does not help things in your family. So if you need help optimizing your digestion, I actually have a YouTube video called Unlocking Better Digestion Naturally. And I walk through simple ways to strengthen your stomach acid production, strengthen your enzyme production, and improve your digestion naturally, even without supplementation. And I'll link that episode in the show notes. Moms, I want to say this directly to you. You are not selfish for prioritizing nourishing meals for yourself and for your family. You're modeling health for your kids. They're watching how you eat. They're watching how you treat your body, whether you sit down and actually enjoy a meal or just grab handfuls of crackers throughout the day. What you do matters for you and for your kids. So the next one that we're going to talk about is the A. So we've covered the S and the E. Now we're at the A. And A is activate digestion. So even the best kitchen cabinets won't install themselves. You need skilled workers to do that job for you. In your digestive machinery, your stomach acid, your enzymes, your gut motility, all of those things need to be functioning properly in order to get the most out of your digestion and get the most out of what you're eating. And they need to be activated. We have senses for a reason. It's more than just protection. Those senses help activate those mechanisms that support digestion. And here's how you actually activate those systems. The first one is chewing thoroughly. And I mean really chew 20 to 30 times per bite. And this is old fashioned advice, but it actually works. Chewing is where you're crushing up the food, you're actually increasing the surface area. You're breaking big particles into smaller particles, allowing more places for enzymes and digestive juices to get at that food. If you had just had one big chunk, there's only this much surface area. Your body can only get at the outside. Those enzymes can only get the outside area. But if you break that all apart, now all of a sudden the enzymes can get all over those particles and really help digest them more fully. Digestion literally starts in your mouth, and so chewing is a big component of that. Eat in the calm, not in the chaos. And I know this is hard when you have kids at the table, when you're busy, when you've got things to go to, but do your best to make meal times as peaceful as possible. Turn off the TV, put away the phones, take a breath before you start, and try to make it as peaceful as possible. We want to make sure that your high stress nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system is not active. We want to try to activate the rest and digest, the parasympathetic nervous system. The other thing you can do is take a 10-minute walk after meals. This is huge. It really stimulates motility or moving things in your intestines and your digestive tract. It also helps balance blood sugar and it supports digestion in a really powerful way. And if you want to lose a few pounds without changing your diet or changing anything significantly, then just go for a 10-minute walk after meals and watch what happens in just a few days. I actually have another video on that called Why You Should Walk After Every Meal, where I dive a bit more into the science behind walking after every meal. But think of this habit like checking the wiring before you close up the walls. It can actually prevent a lot of future problems. So for moms, that post-meal walk can be with your kids. Put the baby in the stroller, let toddlers ride their bikes if they can, and just move. It doesn't have to be intense. It doesn't have to be super far. 10 minutes can be a big thing. You're not training for a marathon. You're just helping your body do what it is designed to do. Now we're at the L, and L is live the long game. Finally, it's time to move in and make the house a home. And this is where rhythm matters. This is where routine comes in. So, consistent sleep, consistent hydration, gentle movement, consistent gentle movement, and consistent gratitude can make a huge difference. I know sleep feels like a luxury, especially when you have small kids, but even small improvements, going to bed 30 minutes earlier, creating a wind down routine, and keeping your room cool and dark, these things can help support better quality sleep. And these things actually add up. You do something like 80% of your healing while you're sleeping, and you do something like 70% of your detoxification while you're sleeping. And so if you're not sleeping, you're missing out on lots of detox, lots of healing, and your body needs that time to recover from its day. And here's what I want you to focus on. I want you to pick anchor habits. I know I've talked about a lot of different things, but I want you to just focus on a few key practices that you can actually live by, not some exhausting 47-step morning routine that you saw on Instagram. Pick maybe 2 or 3 things. Maybe you just pick morning prayer or quiet time, and you do that before the rest of the house wakes up. Maybe you prioritize a midday walk, even if it's just around the block, or maybe you prioritize an evening wind down. Maybe you're reading, stretching, or journaling, some light movement, things like that. Maybe you try to stack those habits together and you do some grounding and reading and journaling all while your feet are on the bare ground while you're grounding. You can stack these things up, but pick something that is going to be sustainable, something that you resonate with, something that is attainable for you and won't cause more stress. These rhythms are almost like the locks or the fencing or the alarm system on the house that's going to help protect the integrity of what's inside the home, the new environment, the remodeled, refreshed, refurbished home that you've just created. They actually help protect everything that you've built. And moms, I know that you feel like you don't have time for this, but you don't have time not to do this, actually. When you're running on empty, everything falls apart. Your patience, your health, your relationships. But when you build these small rhythms into your life, you become stronger, you become more resilient, you become more present, and your family benefits from that. That's one of the reasons why I love working with moms, because I feel like moms are the gateway to the health of the home. If uh, if there's going to be a dietary change, it's going to be because mom said so. Moms are often the ones that are doing the grocery shopping. They're controlling the menu at the home. They're controlling the snacks. They're controlling the meal timing. They're controlling the schedule. And so, if you want to impact a family's life and you want to make a huge difference, then start with mom. Because if mom's life improves, if mom's health changes, then it's a way to impact everybody in the family. And that impact has far reaching consequences. It spreads to the church, it spreads to the community. And so that's one of the reasons why I love working with moms, because I feel like it's such a profound way to make a huge impact. So let me tie this all together for you. Our gut renovation process looks like this: feed the good and then keep what works. Nourish the beneficial bacteria, and look back at the part one video of this podcast series. Step two is clear the debris. You've got to evict the parasites, the toxins, the infections that are actually destroying you from the inside. And then the third step is you've got to rebuild the structure, strengthen the foundation through lifestyle changes, through targeted nutrients. This could include supplementation, and supplements are great. And below this video, I'll put a link to some helpful supplements. There's great things out there like L-glutamine. There's a lot of great varieties out there. There's great things out there like zinc, like butyrate. There's so many great compounds out there that are shown to strengthen those tight junctions and really help rebuild the gut barrier. And I'll put a few links to some of my favorite products, some of the things that we've used over the years that have been really helpful. But supplements are just a part of the picture. That's not the whole process. Really, it starts with creating a healthy rhythm and creating a healthy routine. And then finally, once you've rebuilt the structure, you need to protect the home. You need to maintain safety with ongoing rhythms of rest, of nourishment, and gratitude. When your body is stressed out, guess what? Your gut is going to be stressed out. It's going to be inflamed, and it doesn't take very long for it to get leaky. Even if you have a great diet, you can get a extra permeable gut barrier just from chronic stress. So it's such an important thing to be managing your stress levels and trying to activate your parasympathetic nervous system as much as you can. When you do this, when you actually walk through all four of these phases, you don't just repair a gut. You create a stable, resilient home for your health to live in. And for those of you who are moms, when you heal your gut, you're not just changing your own life, like I said, you're changing your family's trajectory. You're teaching your kids what it looks like to prioritize health. You're giving them a mom who has energy, who has clarity and joy, and you're breaking generational cycles of chronic illness in so many ways. And that's a really powerful thing. So here's what I want you to do next. If you're wondering what's still damaging your health, or what's still damaging your house, where's this damage coming from, what's keeping your gut from sealing up and healing, then one thing that you could do is take my free quiz called Could It Be Lyme? It helps identify root triggers that a lot of people miss, and you can find the missing link between what's going on with your gut and why the things that you've already tried maybe haven't worked. Maybe there's something deeper going on there, and the Could It Be Lyme quiz could help reveal if it could be Lyme or some other biotoxin illness that could be at play. And you can find a link to that quiz in the show notes or in the description of this video just below. And if you're ready to actually start rebuilding, then check out some of my GI Restore bundles at the Discover Health store. Again, I'll put those links together at the bottom of this episode. Those are the things that you need in the repair phase. Those aren't step one and step two. Those are step three and kind of like the extra step there. The right supplements, the right support, all in one place. But remember this: supplements are the tools, but lifestyle is really the blueprint, the framework, the framing of the house that keeps it strong. You can't build a strong house with just a hammer. You need a solid plan. You need all the structure, you need the framing, you need the siding, you need everything. And you need to show up consistently with your habits to do that. You need to protect what you're building. So build wisely, live rhythmically, and make your gut a home again. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode. Again, shout out to those listening all over the country. Shout out to those listening in Singapore, those listening to Canada, those listening in Australia, those listening in Europe. Thank you for listening. Thank you for checking in to Discover Health Podcast. Shout out to my friends in Warrenton and Warren County. Shout out to my friends in the Kansas City area as well. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in to the Discover Health Podcast. Remember, your health is a journey, not a destination. Keep exploring, and we'll see you next week.